came from outer space to fill the world with terror.
What earthly power can stop this terror?
That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop.
The broadcasting from outer space.
I think that would be funny.
You should play the actual.
If it isn't
clipping.
C3 penis face and R2 dickhead.
Good to see you, Schmucks. How you been?
That's right, guys. Tonight, long anticipated waiting for none other than... Are we ready?
I think we're ready, boys.
We're ready.
Coming to you live from the podcast from outer space. It's your boy, Rob Scott. Adam Narlock's in the house.
Hey, guys. Thanks for listening.
And Ryan Scott.
Greetings, everybody.
And tonight, we just tipped it off. We're talking about Star Wars. We're getting into the trilogy.
The Trill OG.
Yes, the Trill OG. Tonight, we are talking in celebration of the release of Episode 8, The Last Jedi, coming out this week, which we've got our tickets to. Comes out December 15th. We're doing a 3-part series on the wars. And so this episode, we're discussing the original trilogy, consisting of Episode 4, Episode 5, and Episode 6.
My personal favorite.
Now, in part 2, we're going to discuss the prequel trilogy of 1, 2, and 3. In our conclusion, we will discuss 7 and 8 and what we hope to see in 9.
Maybe a little shout out to Rogue One, Han Solo story coming out.
Yes. And, we'll talk about all the spin-offs as well. And also, this one will be a little different. We try to do things a little differently here at Podcast from Outer Space this time. We're doing... So this is a lot of facts that we pulled about, just the movie in general, it becoming such a success and more of the making of the film as opposed to theories in the films. But, we're probably going to get into a lot of that too. So, original trilogy, what's your guys' favorite?
The Return.
There's only one return, and it ain't of the King.
It's of the Jedi. Return, all 3?
No, I liked... I think we're all different on this one because I like A New Hope.
Yeah, everyone likes that, but Return of the Jedi is the most badass one.
Return's my favorite, and it's definitely the one I've seen the most. Although
I thought you were an Empire guy. My fault.
No, a few of my favorite scenes are in Empire, but I think all round Return. I watched that the most as a kid. And the Luke in that, I had the Luke action figure with the black hand.
Green lightsaber?
Yep. That was my favorite action figure. I'm all about the figure game.
Figures?
The figures.
Okay, so kick it off. Well, yeah, we'll just get into some of the history here first. So Star Wars all developed from the mind of none other than George Lucas, born in Modesto, California, May 14th, 1944. Tail end of World War II there.
You're older than my recently departed grandfather.
George Lucas?
Yep.
And attending USC Film School in 1963, this is where Lucas made his first film, THX 1138, which if you haven't seen that, it's like 20 minutes. It's sci-fi film, pretty interesting. I watched that.
THX, isn't that also his sound?
I'll play the clip.
Yeah,
but yeah. Yeah. So, but always while going to film school and everything, in the back of his mind, he always wanted to do an epic space opera, and he actually started putting words to the paper in 1973. And, he wanted it to be Flash Gordon 1930s type, the stuff he grew up on.
Ooh, great stuff.
Now, while attending USC Film School, let's just take a look at some of the upcoming directors in the era that George Lucas was part of. So on the rise alongside with him, we have Martin Scorsese, The Departed, Mean Streets, Goodfellas, Brian De Palma, who did Carrie, Francis Ford Coppola, The Godfather, and Steven Spielberg,
Who's that guy?
close personal friend. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, also same year as Star Wars. And that's just to name a few.
And didn't most of those guys also go to the same school?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure which ones exactly. That's failed research on my end.
I'm pretty sure it was Scorsese, Coppola, and Spielberg.
Okay. And upon graduation, Lucas, he really never thought or even had a hope of being successful. He hated the fact that, corporations were starting to take over and, dip their hands into the films, this Hollywood touch, And he always wanted to just maintain his creative control and independence from quote unquote Hollywood. And, he was kind of like a hipster, if you think about it.
He had the beard, the flannel.
Yeah.
The glasses even.
You take a look at classic films, I feel like they all have that Hollywood sense to them, and he wants to go off and do his own thing. I see it.
Yeah, so, a lot of it was just Star Wars hitting the screen, at the right time. In both documentaries I watched on it, they talked a lot about the film industry in the early 70s and mid 70s. It was super grim, just the state of the world. And you had the dying out of the classic heroes in the spaghetti westerns. And, USA, we were just getting out of the Vietnam War. Corporations were starting to buy out the film industry, taking over Warner Brothers, Universal, and it was changing the cinema vastly. And I think he was saying 2001 was the most successful sci-fi film at the time. It was released in '68, earning about 21 mil on its original box office run, and most sci-fi films at the time made under 10 mil. It wasn't. This is just like we were talking about with King, newer genre at the time, starting to experiment in sci-fi and film. It wasn't really taken seriously. And just horror and literature, we talked about in the King episode, he said he was never really taken seriously, but he's one of the most successful writers of all time. And I think same thing with sci-fi and George Lucas. He helped really shape that whole genre within film. But at the time he was doing it, was kind of laughed at. In one of the documentaries I was watching, Empire of Dreams, they're talking about the actors. Since it was mostly filmed in Great Britain, all of the actors were like, what the hell is this? They thought it was a child's movie, and they just it was hard for them to take it seriously. And so as he was writing this, both Universal and United Artists passed on the film, and it would eventually be picked up by 20th Century Fox, which was only due to Alan Ladd, who was a Fox exec at the time. He believed in George Lucas and his talent as a director, not in the idea of the film itself.
No. Is that due to wasn't that due to American Graffiti, if I'm correct?
Yeah, so he had made American Graffiti at the time, but it wasn't picked up, and it was later released by Fox, and it was a huge success. But it wasn't released till Fox till after Ladd signed him on to do Star Wars. So they didn't really know what they had on their hands. But Ladd saw the film and he liked Lucas as a director, which is why he took a shot. So now, what? What's that?
How's that? Now, did you see also in that film, I think it was, I watched a couple of documentaries, so I might be getting this mixed up, but I think it was Coppola was you're always doing science fiction movies. Why don't you just do heartwarming comedy? I bet you can't. You won't. And then he's
it was off of that.
All right. Then makes a badass movie.
Yeah, I actually have that later in the breakdown, which we'll get to. Which actually we'll get to now.
What?
The breakdown. So, episode 4, what originally titled just Star Wars, it was retitled A New Hope, released in 1977. Also a big year for punk rock.
Oh, yeah.
It had the formation of the Misfits. Sex Pistols were really big. But that's a different story. So a big inspiration for Lucas in writing Star Wars was the works of a one Joseph Campbell. This guy was a mythologist who studied the connections of myths, religions, their roles in cultures, and his book Hero with 1,000 Faces is credited by Lucas as a huge influence for writing his epic space opera. And this is how he developed the classic mythical archetypes that are oh so evident in the Star Wars universe saga.
Sorry, my fault.
Whatever we want to call it.
What a dick. You should read that again because I was totally a dick and just cut you off right.
So
I can't read.
Just some of these archetypes, we've got Han, he's the fucking suave
rebel without a cause.
He's a scruffy nerf herder. We got Luke, this is the hero, the farm boy from meager beginnings he's looking for his place. Oh wait, I'm lost, I'm looking for my place in the world. We've got Leia, the damsel in distress, but who's also proves to be a fucking badass. She was like one of the first badass like women princess roles. And we've got R2D2 C3PO, the comic relief, and this is all. And we've got everything in here. We've got the hero's journey, coming of age tale. We've got good versus evil. We've got the aspect of the Force. And in Lucas's writing of the script, Darth Vader was actually the first character to be developed, and it took him a lot longer to write and get the ideas down on paper for Luke, Han, and Leia. At one point, Luke's last name was Starkiller, and he was a 60-year-old general. And Han had green skin and gills. Who does that sound like?
Sounds a little to me like Greedo.
Oh, and who shot first?
Han shot first.
So,
like a poll question to me.
Are we getting that down now?
Ooh.
Here we go. So, we'll get to the bottom of this right now.
We're gonna
now,
what are you
guys big proponents of? Han shooting first or Greedo shooting first? Or simultaneously?
So now I gotta think back to the films.
I'm pretty sure in the OG, Han shot first.
I like to think that Greedo shot first.
You like to think that,
I did just have this picture in my head of Han Solo being rebel, but a gentleman.
Okay. So in the original 77 release, Han Solo, the rebellious smuggler. Fuck you guys. So in the original 1977 release, Han Solo, a rebellious smuggler, shoots Greedo under the table. Han was the only one to fire in the original scene. In the 97 special edition, a scene was inserted to depict the alien firing first and missing before Han responds.
30 years later?
That's the idea you
That's how I like to think of it, yeah.
And in the 2004 DVD release, the scene changed again to show the two firing simultaneously. In 2012, Lucas said the original close-up filming was misleading, and the intention was to make it clear that Greedo did shoot first all along.
I should have bet you, Salacious Crumb, firstborn son.
So he didn't shoot first if we're going off the facts, but
off the facts.
Lucas says he likes to, just like remember I think it was in the 2004 releases when he added in all the CGI and people got pissed.
Ooh,
I should have pulled some of the death threat letters he received. We could have read those.
Still could.
Just because you're George Lucas, you just get to change the whole thing up.
So, back to...
So what are we deciding on that one?
I'm right. You're wrong. We should have bet.
Well, Han shot first, but...
Can you just say that one more time?
Han shot
I'm
first.
right. You're wrong.
So the concept for the Force also ended up being one of the most important elements of the storyline, as Lucas wanted a religious aspect, but not as imposing or domineering as, modern organized religion. The whole script took Lucas a little over a year to write, and he actually had 200 pages, which he shelved 2/3 of it for the eventual sequels if the film was a success.
Now, while we're on that topic, most screenplays are about 90 pages, and that's for a real long movie.
Yeah.
So this guy's just fucking blowing it out of the water.
I mean, he had a lot to get off his chest. This was his
It's a whole
brainchild.
opera,
Yeah.
A space opera.
Big old space opera.
Yeah, so Fox eventually approved a budget of $8 million for the film, and Lucas's compensation was $50K as a writer, $50K as a producer, and $100K as a director. Now, when he did all his negotiations with Fox, he was very clever, as he wanted to maintain that creative control we talked about. He wanted to stay independent from Hollywood. He didn't ask them for more money, but managed to secure all the merchandising rights.
Smart.
And at this time, studios, they didn't give a fuck about these. They were like, yeah, this is basically leftover shit in the contract. Nobody really merchandised movies at that time. Like toys, T-shirts, like that was not a thing at the time.
Rob's wearing a damn T-shirt right now.
Yeah.
The profits
Look at that
to George
merchandise.
Lucas.
Yeah. So give Lucas $1.
I did.
So yeah, he was he put together his own effects company to handle all of the special effects on the project. He hired mostly like model makers from commercial sets, and Star Wars was actually a lot of those guys. It was their first feature film they worked on, and they built every single thing from scratch. They like rented out this warehouse out by this airport, and everything they built in there was from scratch. It was actually badass. They showed clips of them building the Death Star. Like to get that scene, they just built this like giant stage almost, because so people could get under it, and they would have cameras going across on cables to get those flying scenes like down in the Death Star,
down in the trenches and stuff.
Yeah,
that's sick.
And Lucas and De Palma casted together as De Palma was filming Carrie at the time. Wasn't there a reference on our Halloween episode, the research you found, that had like someone was going to audition for Halloween too, and they just said, oh, why don't you go audition for Star Wars? It was Hamill. Whose couch was he staying on? Do you remember that?
I believe it was England, the guy that played A1 Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street.
He was almost, yeah, they wanted him to try out for Skywalker.
I think so.
And he urged him. Crazy stuff.
Said, Mark, you got this.
Which he did, he didn't go to Tashi Station that day. So Lucas spent 6 to 7 months casting for Star Wars.
Must be nice.
And originally, check this out, Harrison Ford wasn't allowed to audition. Now, did you know that?
I did not know that. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So he was not allowed to audition, as George Lucas had worked with him on American Graffiti, and he wanted all new faces. Kurt Russell was actually a strong contender for Han. Now, let's imagine that.
Nah, it wouldn't have been as cool.
You don't think so? I like Kurt.
I see it.
And Carrie Fisher actually got the part with the caveat that she lose 10 pounds.
I heard they actually sent her to a quote-unquote fat camp.
Now, that's just Hollywood at its finest right there.
Ben Stiller was her camp counselor?
Yes. Yeah. So Lucas wanted an established actor for old Ben, and he actually went with Alec Guinness. This is, similar to what Carpenter did with Halloween and Dr. Loomis, where he cast mostly unknown people, but then he wanted one strong guy to, really bring it all in, really tie the film together. Like
Carrie Fisher has a famous mom, just like...
Oh, yeah, just like... Oh, dude, wow, we're connecting the dots right here. This is Hollywood at its finest. Now, a majority of the film was shot in London, as they had bigger sound stages that were necessary for the size of this production, and that's where we get the casting of David Prowse, who was actually a former champion bodybuilder who played Darth Vader in the flesh. Peter Cushing, who played General Moff, the Mothman. And
the Mothman prophecy.
Yeah. Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca, who was actually had a job as a orderly in a hospital, and Anthony Daniels playing C-3PO, and 3-5 Kenny Baker, who would operate R2-D2.
Anthony Daniels was at the PPG Arena for the Penguins game the other night. Fun fact. Star Wars night.
Was he dressed up?
Can you just keep reading?
Now, filming started in 1976, great year, in North Africa. And a lot of the sets are still out there in the desert, which is pretty badass. I know a few people who have gone out there.
Sounds like a bro trip.
Tatooine?
Yeah. The first 2 weeks proved to be a total disaster as Tunisia was hit with rain and then sweltering heat, which was unbearable for a lot of the actors as they were in, costumes and metal suits and stuff. Machines malfunctioned, sets blew over. This put them way off schedule. And it was even hard for a lot of the cameramen and crew members to take the work seriously. Just like we were talking about earlier, they thought, think about it, they're at this movie's half special effects that come in later. So they're not seeing any of this. They were saying when they did the scenes with Darth Vader, it was David Prowse talking through the mask. And they're like, what? This is what we're going to have? He's all muffled, And so it was hard for a lot of them to take the work seriously. And Hamill, who was 24 at the time, and Fisher, who was 19 at the time, were constantly, all their whole goal throughout filming was to try to get George Lucas to laugh. They were just fucking around, the classic pranksters. And the film pressed on, and it was almost shut down as they were 2 weeks overdue. And it took the VFX crew an entire year of setup and building and testing everything out before they were able to produce a single usable scene. Most of the final scenes were shot super quickly, and they were directed in 3 separate units filming simultaneously. And Lucas used dogfights from old war movies to serve as the basis for the TIE Fighter X-Wing fights. Now, some of the sound effects in here, we got Chewie, who was a bear, tiger, and walrus sound bits, clipped together.
Rob, I would love to hear your best Chewie impression right now on the spot. Go.
You can't do it, dude.
Just do it.
I'm not doing it, dude.
Now, Rob, what was the TIE Fighter sound effects?
Yeah, the TIE Fighter sound effects were elephant screams mixed with a car driving on wet pavement.
And
how do you come up with that shit?
I don't know, but I thought TIE Fighters always just sound like a dude going, "Ew."
To me, they sound like the old Stuka bombers in World War II.
Oh, man.
Sounds a lot like an elephant.
You spent some time in the war? So sound effects, the sound effects director actually used his own voice through a synth with beeps for R2-D2. What? Is that funny?
That's pretty damn funny.
Yeah. Because he said Lucas wanted it to be organic. So he said R2-D2, 50% organic, 50% robot.
Did you watch any of that? What is the name of that documentary?
Empire of Dreams.
Did you watch any of that?
No one sent it to me.
They got some outtakes.
Is this on the Netflix?
No.
Nah.
It's on YouTube.
There's multiple versions on YouTube.
Email that to me.
But there's a bunch of outtakes of them just fucking with George Lucas. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, they actually use a lot of behind the scenes footage, which was cool. Vader's breathing is a mic inside a regulator for a scuba tank. They never intended to use David Prowse's voice. They eventually got James Earl,
who did it in 2 hours.
Yeah, and he wanted to give Darth Vader a darker, deeper voice. And originally he wanted to use Orson Welles, but he thought it would be too recognizable, which is why he went with Earl.
Good choice, though. Am I right, guys?
And this one's hilarious. So C-3PO, they originally wanted him to sound like a used car salesman until Daniels came up with the over-the-top British butler voice that we hear. Imagine C-3PO as a used car salesman. Hey, Luke, what are we doing over here? We're going to freaking Taji Station, I thought.
I just see that's like a Family Guy thing right there.
Yeah.
Tatooine.
John Williams, who won an Oscar for Jaws, ended up scoring the film, which proved to be super pivotal for the final cut. The soundtrack was recorded with the London Symphony Orchestra in just 12 days.
That's legendary.
That is legendary. And this was one of the only aspects that exceeded Lucas's expectations.
Can we just, maybe this is lazy research on my part. Did you guys know John Williams' son, frontman in Toto? Listeners out there? Maybe you guys know a little more than us.
I did not know that, but I do miss the rains down in Africa.
And maybe, he wrote that song while they were filming on Tatooine.
Oh, yeah. I
don't know, man.
You might.
So, but as I was saying, the John Williams cut was the only aspect that exceeded Lucas's expectations. He was super stressed with all the pressure from Fox to get it done. They were over budget, behind schedule, almost got shut down numerous times. He actually, while filming this one, he had to go to like the hospital, and they were like saying he had like high stress and something else. I forget the actual diagnosis.
I thought you were about to say he's about to sell kidneys and stuff to make money for this movie.
No. They had plenty of money. 20th Century Fox.
Hey,
So
you're thinking of The Empire Strikes Back.
the movie was released on May 25th, 1977, and originally only 37 theaters signed on to screen it, as most people thought it would be a complete flop. Reactions were the exact opposite, and the film became an instant hit, a cult classic, and a huge commercial success. Fox's stock price doubled in just 2 weeks. The film earned over $775 million during its box office run, which is adjusted for inflation, that is $3.1 billion. And with a budget of $11 million. So yeah, huge success. It was the most successful film to date at that point, when it was released in 77, and it went on to get 10 Oscar nominations, winning 7 of them, including Best Visual Effects, Best Sound Effects, and Best Editing and Production Design. You know what got Best Picture that year?
I do not.
Fucking Annie Hall by Woody Allen. Goddamn joke. And Close Encounters was nominated too.
Speaking of,
Ooh, what do we got?
we know that artists are their own worst critic, and George Lucas was a betting man. So found in my research that George Lucas, he's boys with Spielberg,
Yes.
who was filming Close Encounters around the same time he was filming Star Wars. So they, took turns visiting each other's sets, and he was like blown away by the Close Encounters set. He was telling him that this was just going to be such a inspirational and like huge success. But Spielberg knew that Star Wars was going to be that, and so they bet each other that each would get 2.5% of whatever each other's movie made.
So basically, either way, they're winning.
Yeah, but guess
Who loses? I don't get it.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out myself. It's like,
They both win.
Well,
hey, Rob, I'll bet you'll nail that really hot girl tonight. No,
how's that a
Adam,
win-win?
I think you're going to nail that really hot girl.
I
Like,
know
we
we both
win
did.
either way.
No, I'm saying Spielberg made $40 million off of that bet. So I'm pretty sure he came out the winner there.
So it was just, the bet was whoever's more successful gives them the money.
And they're both losing weight.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, betting men of Hollywood.
No, it's not whoever wins gets 2.5. He was just saying, like, I know that yours is going to be so successful. And he was like, no, it won't. I'll give you 2.5%. And it's basically like we would both put up 2.5%.
So how much did George Lucas get off of Close Encounters?
I did not see that.
Probably still a lot of money, right?
Probably not 40 mil.
Well,
yeah, I'd have
but-
to agree.
Yeah, not 40 mil, but still.
I'm saying if
he's
you were
getting
giving away
money.
40 mil, you'd pretty upset, I think.
Well, I don't think so. I think Lucas
they're
is a
still,
pretty
like,
nice
best
guy.
friends.
Considering the merchandising.
Yeah. Back to those merch rights that Lucas just happened to negotiate. So Kenner was the only toy company to sign on before release of the film. And when the film came out, it was such a success. Kenner was totally caught off guard. They even sold vouchers for toys to be released later that year. Like that Christmas, they didn't even have the toys ready yet. So they sold empty boxes with just like a thing of paper that said like, you're going to get the toys when they're made.
That would suck.
Yeah, to get that for Christmas. And
It's coming in a couple months, guys.
the merch rights, though, that ended up helping Lucas to remain independent and let him fund the sequel himself. He put up 33 mil, I believe. I found different numbers for this, but the one I found the most was 33 mil of his own money for the sequel.
I just want to point out, going back to the merch rights again, when I was a young lad, my mom worked at a toy store. And
Which one?
It's not even open anymore. It was called like the Hobby World.
Oh, nice.
Not Hobby Lobby. Don't get that confused. Hobby World. It was an independently owned toy store inside the mall up in Seattle, and my mom worked there. And like I would just go into the store because I was a little kid. She couldn't afford babysitting. My dad was gone, and I would just go in there and open toys up and be like, "Oh, it's okay. My mom works here. You can take it out of her paycheck." Dude, I swear I had like every single Star Wars toy in the world.
Do you still have them?
Nope.
They're probably worth a lot of money.
They were all open out of the box, and I was playing with them. And one year, decided to be a nice guy around Christmas time. I donated all my toys: Star Wars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All this stuff.
Big mistake.
Yeah, man. Hindsight.
I threw away a lot of mine.
Right. Well, now I don't feel as bad.
We all did.
Yeah. So on to the sequel. Now, you say this was your favorite?
No, I said A New Hope was my favorite.
Okay, so
I thought you said this was your favorite. Great scenes, don't get me wrong.
He literally just said that.
So episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, released in 1980. This time, Lucas, he didn't want to wind up in the hospital again. He didn't want to be too stressed out. He hired Irvin Kershner to direct, and he wanted this one to be bigger, badder, and more complex than episode 4. And Kershner was hired specifically to develop the characters more, because in this one, because he says that's what he saw in Kershner's directing style. And this one actually had something like 64 sets. It was huge, way bigger than 4. And filming began in Norway, which is Hoth. And just like Tunisia, proved to be troublesome as they were hit with a massive blizzard, negative 20-degree weather, and 18 plus feet of snow. And the scene where Luke goes off into the snow when he gets captured by the Yeti, that was actually shot from the hotel doorway. The crew, everyone was inside the hotel because they said it was barricaded with snow, and Hamill was the only guy going out in the fucking minus 20-degree weather. Now, in watching this documentary, this could be just Google it. So the Empire Strikes Back, that Lucas made these crew jackets for all of the crew members, these blue parkas, and they were full suits. They got this little patch of Darth
Norway
Vader on
crew?
them. Yeah, badass. These are super rare among Star Wars collectors, and some of the jackets have been known to go from $7,000 to $10,000 on eBay because there's only a few of them floating around,
And I thought these things smelled bad on the outside.
And so, Empire Strikes Back, it's the sequel. We've got some new characters in the mix. We got the introduction of Lando. How are we feeling about Lando?
Badass.
Billy D, son.
Oh, yeah. We got Lando. We got Boba Fett.
Which I believe Rob Scott owes my father a tattoo drawing after over a decade. Shout out, Dad. I got your back.
Now, here's my whole spiel. So Boba Fett, he proves to be one of the most badass characters, right?
Yep.
He's barely on screen.
Maybe
that's why he's so badass, dude.
Yeah, it just adds to the lore of Boba Fett.
They're gonna make.
He's got a cool costume. He's only there for a second. He's a bounty hunter.
Now, see, now you don't like Clone Wars, which we'll talk about this more on the prequels. That's one of the aspects I liked about that.
That's true.
You kind of see his backstory.
I didn't say that I don't like it. I just haven't seen it.
No. Okay. So
there's a difference.
And we've also got, one of the most well-received characters, I would say, of any franchise, possibly of all time.
Easily
Yoda.
Identifiable.
Yeah. So Yoda, whose likeness was actually based off of the makeup designer himself and Einstein. So the guy actually crafted the face off of himself, and then he wanted to make him look intelligent, so he added in all of Einstein's wrinkles.
Gray hair, that's
and
gonna be
eyes and the gray hair.
Yeah. And the scenes,
and a love of caves.
Now, he did have a love of caves. Now, scenes for Yoda proved incredibly strenuous as it took multiple people to operate the puppet, and they had to be in sync. I think they say it took someone had to do the eyes, someone else had to do the ears, and then Frank Oz was under there doing the
hands and
puppet
gestures.
himself. Yeah, and he had to squat. The scenes in Dagobah were built 3 feet off the ground, So he was under there crouching in all those scenes.
Yeah, you barely see his feet if you go back and watch.
Makes
Yeah.
leaf terrain all the time. Makes sense.
And Hamill's acting, Lucas says that Hamill's acting is really what carried Yoda. It's what gave the audience a belief in Yoda. So another fact in Empire, that famous Han, I love you, I know scene. So apparently they filmed that a shitload of times, and then Kirshner just said like nothing's working. He was like, just say like the first thing that comes to your mind, just whatever. And it was like totally unscripted. Harrison Ford just right off the bat.
Ultimate badass.
Yeah.
How many times have you used that line on a girl? Twice.
I've seen him do it.
Me?
Yeah.
Classic line. And so here's my whole spiel though.
You got a lot of spiels tonight.
Yeah. So the scenes with Han and Leia, even in when they're in Cloud City, and he remember when he sees her in the dress before they go get ambushed by betrayed by Lando.
Spoilers.
They had to film that scene a shitload of times too, because they were just like, the chemistry is just not right. Like, you got like Harrison Ford was being too standoffish, like not, so he was being too much of a scruffy nerf herder.
He's a repeat offender. We saw this in Blade Runner.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
He just does not like these chicks. Maybe that's part of his thing though, because like
That's
he's
his
supposed
whole
to be a
spiel.
badass, so he's like making these chicks like hate him.
That's his whole spiel.
Because that's how his character is.
So Empire Strikes Back effects were far more improved from Episode 4. This is why we see more space scenes,
This Columbo, he pretends to be stupid.
Now, there it is. The VFX team actually used in some of those asteroid scenes where the Millennium Falcon's going through the asteroid field. It said it was like really hard for them to make the asteroids look authentic. They actually used potatoes for some of the far off asteroids hanging down.
I've heard potatoes, pieces of chewed up bubble gum.
Yep.
Sneakers.
You know what else looks like chewed up bubblegum?
Sneakers. Now, despite these improvements, Empire Strikes Back was still over budget by $10 million and over schedule. Lucas had to pay Fox more money so they wouldn't pull the bank loan, and in order to keep his independence from Hollywood, make the film that he wanted to make.
He really fricked up on this one.
Why? Why's that?
Didn't he have to put up his own money at first, and then he had to put in more money? I mean, obviously it paid out in the end, but...
Didn't you say he had to like sacrifice one of the Indiana Jones movies?
Mm-mm. No, but this one, basically, Rob, as saying he's a betting man, like he basically like
bet on himself.
Yeah, in Hollywood, you never like fund your own movie. That's like
this guy's already put down like 50 mil at this point of his own money.
No, I think it's only 33 total.
You just said 10 million.
Yeah, but that's with the 33 total.
Okay.
So, he like pretty much just bet on himself, like everything he had, put it up for this movie because, look at the first one. Huge success. The second one, usually sequels are not a success, but Lucas, guy's a genius.
Arguably, yes.
Yeah, and he already had all these merch rights.
Well, this is a trilogy, not just the sequel.
Exactly. So only Lucas and Kirshner and a few of the producers knew the real storyline of Vader as Luke's father. They had a false page inserted in the original script, and they only told Mark Hamill a few minutes prior to shooting the scene.
Gotta believe that kind of contributed to the whole, oh shit, like I really didn't know,
That's impossible. Now, even James Earl Jones thought it was a lie when he did the voiceovers. He said, how are they going to carry this lie out, I wonder?
He said, you're dead where you're standing.
Why'd you knock on the door? I'd have got it for you. Now, did you know Darth Vader played baseball with Babe Ruth?
A high, fast one to the head. Pow! Lights went out.
So, May 21st, 1980 was the premiere date, and George Lucas made his money back in 3 months. This film earned close to $538 million worldwide, which is $1.6 billion adjusted for inflation on its initial box office run, with a budget of $18 million. Now, George Lucas, being the nice guy that he is, he gave out $5 million in bonuses to all the employees on the film. You know, this guy is just, he really just, you know, he wants to make what he wants to make. And if the people make it a success, he's going to pay him, you know?
He's like
not a greedy guy.
He's the real Rob Scott of the movie world, if you will.
Well, Han Solo only made $10K on the original movie. So maybe he was feeling bad about that.
Well, you know, that's neither here nor there. So,
how am I George Lucas?
yeah, how is Rob George Lucas? Remind me of that. He's never given me a nickel of that million.
That's the joke.
Okay, so with the success of Empire, this is really what gave Lucas the ability to build the legendary Skywalker Ranch in Marin County, California, which would become home to companies such as LucasArts, THX, and ILM. And even though this film made Lucas the sole owner and one of the most successful franchises in history, the frickin' suits at Fox, they still had issues with it. So get this. Lucas, he wanted to keep iconic. In the first film, you've got the scroll. That's what pulls everybody in, right? That's iconic Star Wars. So
you haven't seen it, Rogue One, right?
Yeah, and he wanted to keep that in there. He wanted to keep the integrity of those with no opening credits. Like, it just starts off with the scroll, and then all the credits are at the end. So he kept the credits at the end, just like the first film, and was fined $250,000 for this by Fox. And they even threatened to go after Kirshner and pull the film from theaters until Lucas paid the fines in full, which he did. And this led, Lucas was so pissed about this, he dropped out of the Directors Guild and the Writers Guild. And even Ladd, the guy who was the original Fox exec to take a chance on Lucas, he quit Fox due to issues after this film's release. You know, this is classic Hollywood, just mucking everything up.
It's all about the money.
So yeah, this, like we were saying, this is what led Lucas to go to Paramount for his next franchise, which ended up being a little project called Indiana Jones. Big mistake on that one, 20th century.
Future episode on our part, maybe,
yeah. Kali Ma Shakti Day. So now we'll get into episode 6, Return of the Jedi, 1983. So for this one, Lucas put up his own money once again to fund the film, got to meet the president again. And
blah blah blah.
Yeah, the original title was Revenge of the Jedi.
Badass name.
Yeah, and there's actually some posters that were released with this title. Badass. And he originally wanted Spielberg to direct this, but this proved difficult since, like we said, he had quit the Directors Guild.
Is this like a fraternity? Like,
pretty much, like, you know, it's like the Screen Actors Guild. Like, you have to be in the guild to get a job on a major picture, but to get a job on a major picture, you have to be in the guild. It's
I
like
thought you just had to let the producer touch you.
Well,
it's similar to the Lollipop Guild.
To that. That's probably how you get in the guild. So
is that too soon? Do we need to cut that out?
No. That's
too
good.
soon.
Yeah, that's the signs of the time.
Whoa! Before we go on to the next thing, speaking of these suits, they're actually the ones that wanted to call it Revenge, and then Lucas, being the guy that he is, was like, Jedis don't have revenge, so we can't call it that. And he had to go on this big old spiel about how Jedis are like the nice guy.
He also originally approached David Lynch, who declined due to directing Dune, which also could be an episode for the future. Now, imagine if Lynch had directed Return of the Jedi. Have you ever seen a David Lynch movie? Mulholland Drive, Eraserhead, Dune. I mean, Dune is very tamed. Like, most of his movies are just super weird. And I just think it'd be hilarious if he actually had directed Return. So
probably be more like a Family Guy episode. Is that what you're suggesting?
Oh, it would be.
I think it'd be crazier, dude.
Yeah. So also David Cronenberg was asked but declined in order to direct Videodrome and The Dead Zone. Shout out to Stephen King once again. And he eventually signed on Richard Marquand to direct. However, Lucas was alongside of him for a lot of the shooting, he said, for actually more than he thought. Harrison Ford, also only actor that did not sign a contract for all of the sequels, and he wanted to be killed off early in return. However, despite a lot of people's feedback on killing off Han, George Lucas didn't let it happen. And here's another interesting fact. So they actually changed the name to Blue Harvest in order to secure filming locations cheaply, especially in the Redwoods. This is similar to like Walt Disney when he was building Disney World in Florida. Of course, if they see, Disney, Star Wars, like Disney's buying this land, oh, we're jacking up the prices. Or like, oh, Star Wars is filming here. Yeah, we're going to charge you way more than we would Blue Harvest. Like, nobody gives a fuck.
See, I read while they were filming out in the deserts in Arizona for this movie, they changed it to Blue Harvest. So like, because mad people go out there. They change it for like security people, so like people wouldn't be peeping and stuff.
Yeah, same with like I know Game of Thrones had a lot of issues with like finding locations where people wouldn't be to get like the spoilers and stuff. So yeah, now with Return of the Jedi, we've got the introduction of Jabba the Hutt, whose puppet took at least 5 people to operate.
Looks like my grandma.
Jesus.
Your grandma looks like Jabba the Hutt.
I'm gonna show you a picture, and this might have to be the just Google it.
Or we'll just put her on.
You got a lot of pics of your grandma on the internet.
No, I'm gonna have to find this.
So, at least 5 people to operate Jabba the Hutt, and also the Ewoks were introduced, who were mostly played by the midgets. Or what are they? Little people?
Didn't we have this debate?
I don't think so.
Politically correct.
Shout out to George Lucas, always giving midgets jobs.
There was a lot of diversity. This was like diversity without it being forced upon us, like a certain episode that Rob happens to enjoy.
He actually had the idea of all midget cast before he started filming.
Why are you laughing while you say that?
Is that funny?
Can you imagine if Star Wars was all midgets?
That'd be cool.
Like the Munchkin movie.
Yeah. Think about some of the greatest.
Guild.
Yeah, some of the greatest movies in history.
I said that earlier.
Midgets.
That's what I'm saying.
Lollipop Guild. We got Return of the Jedi.
Tyrion, Game of Thrones.
Oh, man, midgets are awesome.
Shout out to all the midgets out there.
I actually heard Ewoks were not supposed to be in this film. They wanted to do Wookiees originally.
Yeah, but then...
I'm glad they saved that for revenge.
Yeah, because I actually have that in here, so...
damn it.
What?
This guy's just got everything.
He's got everything. I didn't even read this part.
So Ewoks, love them or hate them, they get a lot of hate.
They do.
Right?
Do they?
What do you guys?
You guys...
Movie. Probably because they look identical to Ezekiel Elliott.
Do you guys like or hate them? So... Ewoks, love them or hate them, originally wanted to be Wookiees, but Wookiees, they said, were too technologically advanced. And Ewoks, they really convey the message of the whole film and ultimately the entire franchise. Because what do the Ewoks do?
Help everyone out?
Yeah, they help defeat the Empire.
They're kind of pissed at first, but then they end up helping out.
They defeat the Empire with simple weapons.
Sticks and stones.
Sticks and stones. Technology.
Sure as shit did.
Yeah. And that's really the whole message, is like, you don't have to have all this fancy technology to win. It's the will, heart. Don't tell me the odds.
That's what you took away from Star
Never
Wars.
Tell me the odds.
That is what George Lucas says this is all about.
It's a sci-fi futuristic movie, and he says don't rely on the technology.
I mean, he's saying, like, it does, like, no matter, they think the Empire, giant galactic, got fucking moon that's blowing up planets. However, they're defeated by all these little bears in the forest. That's the whole thing. It's just like they have the will to win. Good's going to conquer evil. Not necessarily that technology, whatever. Now, here's another whole spiel I got on this one.
Again with the spiels.
So, George Lucas, genius that he is, bases this a lot on, like, mythology and, like, hero's journey, like Excalibur type shit.
Some samurai stuff.
Yeah, samurai. That's where he gets the swords. It's like super far technology advanced. I mean, I guess it's in the past, right?
Long time ago.
But they're super
far away.
Technologically advanced. However, they're still having sword fights. But they're lasers.
Technically, they're kyber crystals.
Yeah. But still,
you want to get into that
of a sword? Yeah, we can get into the kyber crystals.
Did you guys know anything about that before this podcast?
Well, yes, we've seen Rogue One, and they get into it a lot in there.
Did they get into why the Sith have red ones?
Why don't you enlighten us and our listeners?
Well, the kyber crystals are actually living crystals, and when the Sith use them for evil, they start bleeding. And that's why the Sith has red lightsabers. And
Now,
then
where did you find this information?
where else would I find it?
BuzzFeed?
Guess again, motherfucker.
Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know it's real.
Yeah.
But then Luke's is green because he's so strong with the Force. It really likes being used by, the good side. So it turns
Badass.
green.
Best lightsaber. I had the lightsaber of that. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, that's honestly probably
Are we
one of my
sparking this debate right now?
Yep.
Oh, all right. We'll get into that right now.
Yeah, so basically can't think of her name right now. Was the chick
Rey?
from the new one? Yeah. She has that white one for a minute because she's just new to it. So it's not sure,
Okay.
Is she bad? Is she good? Should we not even talk about that right now?
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the later ones. But so if we do this debate, we can't go all three. We'll just do in the old ones. All right.
There's only 3 lightsabers in that whole trilogy.
Okay, well, what's your favorite one in the original
Tell
trilogy?
me I'm wrong. There's 4. You're right.
All right, what's your favorite?
It's Darth Vader's.
Darth Vader, the red? How about you?
I'm going to go with Luke's.
The
Green?
green or the blue?
Yeah, the green.
Yep, green, return.
Green one's the most
Now,
badass,
all right,
dude.
favorite lightsaber battle in the original trilogy?
In the original?
Yeah, in the
Empire.
first, and 4, 5, and 6.
Empire.
Bespin Luke?
Return.
Bespin.
Return? What, the final?
Yeah.
You're lying. How are you going to say... When
I said it's
found
my
out
personal-
that
Yeah, it's
Darth
his
Vader-
personal-
You're
get out of
lying.
his
You're wrong. He's
fantasy.
wrong.
Continue to tell me what I feel.
What did we say that one time when he was running late?
What?
My
Delinquents.
delinquents.
Now,
Dude,
yeah,
when you find out that Vader is Luke's father, if that doesn't shatter your whole...
okay, my whole spiel
livelihood.
with that one is...
No, I mean, that's cool. I just like the one at the end when he, cuts off Vader's hand and he was, looking at his and he's like, fuck, I'm about to turn into Darth Vader.
Yeah, he likes the whole realization of Vader. He throws the Emperor down that pit,
He sees Luke getting fucking electrocuted by that asshole and
No,
he's
I
like,
remember the film.
He likes the whole
Fuck you.
Vader's actually good aspect.
Oh, which
Now,
I believe.
you believe that?
No, James Earl Jones says contrary to that.
You're right.
oh, did James Earl Jones write the fucking saga?
He was the man.
Now,
To be the man, you gotta beat the man.
the Bespin Luke fight, when they start off after Han was frozen in carbonite,
Mhm.
and they start off in there.
Yeah.
Oh, iconic. And then they're going through that hallway, and then they go down the thing, and he throws the
Go down
thing
the
at
thing?
him.
But when he
Cuts
throws the
his
lightsaber, yeah,
hand.
that's badass.
Oh, so
dude.
badass. And we've got, that's when he gets the reveal of his sister, right?
Your sister.
No, I feel like that was in Return, wasn't it?
Okay, I should have done more research.
I feel like that's the first time you mentioned. Well, I don't know,
I'm
because that's
pretty
when
sure
he
you
reaches
find
out.
out.
He reaches out to her.
Yeah.
But is that because he's romantically interested? And
Oh,
I don't know. That's
come
what we might have to
on.
do research. What? Don't shake
That
your
was
head and
his
say,
sister, you sick
"Come
bastard.
on."
I'm
But he
pretty
ain't know that.
They
That's
kissed
his
at the
sister.
beginning. They kiss at the beginning of Empire, and I think at the end of Empire
A New
Strikes
Hope.
Back, he finds
she
out.
kisses him for luck.
Yeah, and then she kisses him to make Han Solo jealous in Empire. Remember?
Yep.
And he's like, earlier she told me her true feeling.
All right, so getting back into the return.
You got a spiel for us?
No, I don't have a spiel. The Redwood Forest
Ryan Spielberg over here.
were secured for much of the filming, including the famous speeder bike scene, which was actually filmed by a Steadicam operator walking on a semi-covered path at 1 frame per second, and when sped up to 24 frames per second, looks like he's going 100 miles an hour. And Return premiered on May 25th, 1983, exactly 6 years to date from the OG, and has had the title change back 2 weeks prior to the premiere date. And this was, as Rob was saying, because a Jedi does not take revenge.
Bam.
Now, Return took in 6.
Do you think that they're ever seeking revenge?
God damn it. I'm cutting a fantasy football joke on our podcast. So
That was funny, dude. That was good. His cousin will get it.
So Return of the Jedi took in 6.2 mil in the first day. Biggest in box office history at the time. And with
What beat it? Do we know that?
I'll have to look it up because that was in 83. So what was coming out around then?
One thing he doesn't have.
Blade Runner?
82.
Yeah, I know.
So, with a budget of 33 mil,
I got that later.
the conclusion of George Lucas's trilogy took an estimate of 475 to 572 million on its original run, 1.2 billion adjusted for inflation.
Whoa.
So let's just talk a little bit about, GL's impact on sci-fi as a whole.
GL.
Or just the movies in general. I mean, I know we had those debates just now. Like, what was your guys's... Was A New Hope the first one you guys saw of the original?
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure we watched them all in a row one time.
I remember the day that Dad showed me A New Hope.
Right.
On VHS, he had it, and he showed it to me, and I remember being so blown away. I must have watched it 100 times. That year for Halloween, I wore a karate gi and put ace bandages around my calves and was Luke for Halloween. Luke, all-time favorite character.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All time?
In 7, when you see him turn around and he lifts and he has the robot hand, he takes it off his hood.
Hand?
I cried. I'll admit it. I cried in the theater by myself.
Oh, yeah, because you went by yourself, you fucking asshole.
Now, one of my all-time favorite toys, aside from the green lightsaber, was X-Wing fighter.
Oh, yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah, you had that?
You had the snow speeder too, right?
I had
And Darth Vader's TIE Fighter.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Rob had that, I remember. And I remember, I just ordered Darth Vader's TIE fighter drone. Little Christmas present for Papa.
A Millennium Falcon one, but it was like $300.
Yeah. I remember Rob had like the little micro machine set of the Death Star, and then I had the Hoth one.
The binoculars?
No, it was like the little setup of the scene, and then I had the ship too.
Oh, I got you.
And Rob had the AT-AT. You guys say AT-AT or AT-AT?
Depends on who I'm around.
And when do you say which one?
I don't know.
Well, because me and Chris were watching the documentary, and he said he had never heard anyone call it AT-AT, but that's what the guy who made the model called it.
Yeah.
But I always referred to it as AT-AT.
I feel like they say it in Rogue One. I just can't.
Yeah.
I feel like it's AT-AT. I don't remember.
And we've already done our favorite films, favorite lightsaber battles, favorite lightsabers. What about you guys' favorite characters in the trilogies? The original trilogy.
James Earl Jones.
Darth Vader. I like, and I'm going to catch flack for this next week when I talk about how some of the prequels were my favorites, but I like knowing the man behind the mask. I like seeing how he came.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that on the next episode on the prequel trilogy.
So I should hold up.
Yeah, that one I think will be more controversial because those films are very controversial.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna stick with my boy Harrison Ford.
You're going Han
with Solo.
I also had the Han blaster based off the Broomhandle Mauser, the German weapon. A lot of references to World War II in Star Wars too. Nazis.
There's a lot going on.
Galactic Empire.
But there always is.
I remember when they re-released the original saga, if you will. Was that like 97?
Oh, when they put the CGI in there?
Like the extra 15 seconds in each movie. Like I was so hyped because my dad had showed me the originals.
Yeah.
And then they were coming into theaters and like...
What did you think about that?
I thought it was badass because I was a little kid.
Because Lucas says those are like, he just didn't have the technology or the time to make that back in the day. Like, as we talked about, some of the filming was a disaster, and he says that's how he originally wanted the films to be seen. But people like lost their shit over that. I remember the conversation with, like, I think it's in 4 with Han and Jabba the Hutt.
He steps on his tail and everything.
Yeah. Like, people like so mad about that.
I think it's great. But like, that's what he said. Like, that's how Lucas originally saw it.
Yeah,
like,
that's the man that made this. Like, you can't really get mad at the man, the creator.
Well, haters gonna hate.
And Lucas in general, I think, so he made so much money off this stuff that he talks about this in the documentary. He says he kind of became the very corporation that he spent his entire career trying to escape,
So he's Darth Vader, kind of.
Yeah, and he even says that. He says he relates it back to the films too. Because think about it, this guy wanted to be independent. He just wanted to make his own stories, and here he is having Skywalker Ranch. He's got all these companies. He's becoming a huge corporation. It now sold to Disney.
Sold out
in
to
2012. Disney. I mean, you can't. This is
No, I don't blame the
Here's
guy.
my whole spiel with this thing. Now I'm saying,
Is this the final spiel?
yeah, this is this final spiel. So you know how people are all opposed to these corporations, all these hippies, you know, like that's that's corporate. Now my whole thing is, doesn't every corporation start out as a mom and pop shop? If you think about it, so really, you know, can't we all just get along?
I mean, maybe some of them do. I wouldn't say all though, but I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
But at the same time, it's like,
isn't that your goal in starting a company? You want to make it so successful that you can sell it?
Everybody
Well, yeah,
buys
but
your shit.
Yeah.
as we go back though, he never really anticipated that it was going to go this far, you know? He just thought he was making some movies he thought were badass and didn't really expect any commercial success from it. It was just what he wanted to do. He didn't think he was going to, you know, revolutionize the genre.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But
so
then here
it was just caught off guard.
You know, like $10 billion later. What else are you going to do with all that money?
Yeah. All right.
Give 40 away to your fucking boy, Spielberg?
One more shout out to my childhood.
Okay.
If we have
What do
time.
we got? Yeah.
I think the first time like I was aware that I was interested in girls, 5 years old, vacation Bible school. There was this girl, I kid you not. Oh, now why did you roll your eyes and make that noise while I'm sharing my story? There was this girl, I kid you not. Her name was Laura Vitale, Princess Leia buns every day, the whole week. And I knew I was in love with this girl. And then this was during the summer, like right before my birthday. I invited her to my birthday party and I was like so hyped. I was like 5 years old, man, already scheming like how to get girls and stuff. And I was like, yes, dude, she's going to come to my birthday party. It's going to be good. Maybe get that first kiss, hold a hand, whatever you're thinking about at 5 years old. That girl moved.
You're not invited to my birthday party.
She moved the day of my birthday party, and I was just so sad. I like hid under my bed the whole time. First love, dude.
Okay.
Princess Leia.
You guys ready to see how big of fans we are over here?
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna ask you guys a few questions. Now, these are only from the original, so I'll try to pick and choose. True or false? Real garbage was used in A New Hope's trash compactor scene.
I'm going to say false.
I'm going to go true.
Okay, tack it down. That's one for Adam. True. The garbage used in the scene smelled so bad that Hamill burst a blood vessel in his face trying to hold his breath.
Oh.
The cameraman had to adjust to keep his injury out of the shot.
Wow.
All right.
That's kind of fucked up. You guys are going to be shooting in this trash all day, so have fun.
How about this one? Peter Cushing, who played Grand Moff Tarkin, the Mothman, in A New Hope, wore slippers during many of his scenes.
I'm going to say true.
I know this to be true.
Okay, there we go. True. The actor found his costume boots so uncomfortable he slipped them off when his feet were not on camera.
It's like if Chris was an actor. That's what he would be doing.
So how about this one? A regular cast member played more than one actor. True or false?
True.
A regular cast member played more than one actor?
Yeah.
Like they appeared as multiple
Played more than
roles?
one character.
More than one role.
Yeah.
Not more than one actor.
True.
And do we know who that was?
Warwick. Was it Warwick?
Was it the
Warwick?
guy that played C-3PO?
So Kenny Baker, who controlled
R2.
the shaking and movements inside of R2-D2,
He was also an Ewok.
played an Ewok,
Ah.
I knew
Pat
it.
Blue, in Return of the Jedi.
I was thinking little people.
You can spot the Ewok stealing a speeder bike to distract scout troopers from the rebel assault. That's Kenny Baker in there. How about this one? Last one. True or false? Chewbacca was inspired by Bigfoot.
True.
True.
Oh, that's actually false. Han Solo's Wookiee co-pilot was inspired by George Lucas's dog, Indiana.
Ah.
She was named after a dog? Now, Lucas owned
False.
the Alaskan Malamute at the time of writing A New Hope, and the dog's constant presence led Lucas to give Solo a big furry sidekick.
False. Bigfoot is based off of Chewbacca.
Yeah,
Do you think that's where he also got the name Indiana Jones from his dog?
probably. You know, it was originally going to be called Indiana Smith.
More common last name? I don't know. Wow, 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 wow.
Did you guys actually know that a lot of people claim to be Jedis? Like, they claim it as an actual religion, but it has not been approved as an
It's a
actual
lifestyle.
religion. Yeah.
I've actually looked into this myself.
Yeah.
A lot of the meditating, the principles.
So obviously a lot of influence from religion within the Star Wars. We got the Force and everything.
Listen, kid, I've been on one side of the galaxy to the other. Seen a lot of weird things. That's all I got.
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field controls my destiny. It's all a lot of simple tricks and nonsense.
Lucas says that when he set out to make this, he was trying to do more than just make an action movie. He wanted to put the modern lens on ancient religious motifs, but he didn't want to preach. That was very important. And he says he doesn't see Star Wars as profoundly religious. He sees Star Wars as taking all the issues that religion represents and trying to distill them down into a more modern and easily accessible construct.
I like that.
And he concludes, he says he remembers when he was 10 years old, he asked his mother, if there is only one God, why are there so many religions? And he says, I've been pondering that question ever since, and the conclusion I've come to is that all religions are true.
Some deep stuff right there, man.
Stew on that for a week, listeners.
So yeah, we'll get out of here on this one. Like we said, next episode, we're going back episodes 1, 2, and 3.
An even longer time ago.
Yeah. Going way back. So anything else before we get out of here, guys?
Once again, running low on these stickers, so you guys know what to do. DM us on the Instagram, Podcast from Outer Space. If you're still using the old email, podcastfromouterspace@gmail.com. And if you got our numbers, hit us up. We'll send some your way. That's all for this week.
Been liking all the insightful comments, feedback we've been getting from you guys. It's always good to interact with you. Thank you again for all the fish.
Thank you. We're the Cantina Band. If you have any requests, shout them out. Play that same song. All right, same song. Here we go.